2 weeks ago, I talked about making a physical outline of my book because things had just gotten out of whack. Well, now I can successfully say that the dining room table is cleared off and ready for eating once again. I definitely learned some things along the way that I wanted to share with you guys today. When I say storyboard, I mean an outline of your novel. And this is basically a bird's eye view of your book. You're able to look above all the details and see how exactly your story is going to progress. So, how do I know if I need a storyboard? Of course, after I went through making my own storyboard, I'm a firm believer in doing it. I knew since the beginning of NaNoWriMo that I was going to need to do this. So, if your novel is getting away from you like mine was, then a storyboard might be a good idea for you. When I actually first started writing this novel back in July, I had a rough idea of what I wanted to do with the story, but things kind of got carried away. My story completely diverged from my outline, like it does with many writers. Now, this isn't exactly a bad thing, because I really like where my story's gone, but it was definitely time for a plot intervention. Now, if this sounds at all like you should probably make a hard copy of your outline. Now, if anybody watching this knows anything about psychology and they would like to explain why this happens, please, please, please do so, because I can't outline to the chapter level with just my computer and my keyboard. I cannot do it. I have to have physical pen in hand, markers, whatever it may be, but I can't create the outline of the story unless I'm doing it by hand. Definitely, if that sounds like you should do an outline. My notes for my novel literally look like chicken scratch, but that's okay because I'm creating. So not only did this storyboard help me to straighten out my plot again, but it also helped me find plot holes. That is huge. If there's any way that you can find these before you invest time in beta readers and editors, then please by all means try it. In my own story, I realized that I jumped scenes at certain points, and that some scenes were actually better suited in different places. I had characters appear out of thin air. Okay, it was just one character, but it was really weird. He really wanted to be on the page. I had a subplot that had no beginning, and then an ending that was kind of, was okay. If your novel is lacking something and you cannot figure out what it is, then pick up those markers and get to plotting. So how did I go about making the perfect storyboard outline? Well, I went to good old Walmart. So a couple weeks ago, I talked about a tri-fold poster board that I wanted to get. Walmart, of course, was fresh out of those. So I picked a regular flat foam-ish board. I say foam-ish because I'm not exactly sure what it is. I just know that gladly, tape does not rip it apart. I'll get to that in a minute. I also got some flashcards and some markers because I didn't feel like getting high while creating this outline and I didn't want it to bleed through to my table. So once I gathered all of my supplies up, I made a major list of things that happen in my novel, starting with the scenes that already existed in my Scrivener project. Now, if you don't use Scrivener and you haven't outlined at all, then you can start from what you've already written and go scene by scene to make a new outline of your already existing story. Now, these don't end up being chapters for me. They're literally just small scenes. They're not quite small enough that they're considered beats. I may have 2 or 3 that comprise one chapter. You can go as close down to the storyline as you want to, or you can have it as wide as you want to. In my case, I went down to the scene level. So since I had limited space, I ended up cutting up the cards so that they were smaller. So I would write a scene down, for example, Abby gets published, and then I would cut that little section off the rest of the note card and stick it on my board. Actually, before I stuck it onto my board, I spread them all out on my dining room table. Now, poor Steven had to put up with this for about a week, so you guys need to give him some kudos, please. But that was just to get everything in proper order. I ended up moving scenes around a lot. My story is told from the perspective of a brother and a sister, and then I realized about halfway through my story that the sister was getting the spotlight big time. So this prompted a slew of rearranging and then some more writing and rewriting that's to happen later on. This was actually easier to spot for me because I chose to use different colored markers for different characters. So Abby, the sister, was purple. Ben, which is her brother, was green. The mother was blue. Their grandmother was pink. Mr. Flynn, which is a family friend, was brown. And then the evil, wicked woman was red. So interesting side note to my story, I have yet to name the evil, wicked red woman. I have literally called her Red since July, since I started writing this story. So if anybody is interested in having a giveaway that you will have full rights to name that character, maybe let me know. and then I might actually do a giveaway for it. Now, what if you're like, Vivien, I'm a pantser. I don't need no freaking storyboard. So what happens if you're a pantser and you thrive on the unknown? You should still try a storyboard. If you prefer riding by the seat of your pants, then I would recommend waiting until you have a good portion of your story written, or even the whole thing if you want. That's kind of what I did, but I am not a pantser at all. It's bad. There's a certain point in your writing that you can no longer physically hold all of the information in your head. All of the characters, the scenes, the settings, the romantic scenes, everything. It's a lot when you look back on it. Even if you're using something like Scrivener, which I am, I have all of these things laid out. But when you get to writing, sometimes they change a little bit and then you forget to go back and rewrite them into your existing notes. It also can be difficult to remember what scene went where. So back in July, I wrote 50,000 words. I took a tiny break and then ended up writing about 20,000 words between July and then November, which is a big break. And then I ended up writing another 50,000 words in November. But my point was that I took such a large break that I couldn't remember what I had gone back and rewritten, what I had finally decided on. I had renamed some characters and then forgot what I named them. So the break wasn't all bad because I could actually look at my story from a distance and I could already see that I needed to do some rewrites. But in the end, instead of looking up that place, I would end up writing the word place because I had changed it a couple times already. So storyboarding can actually help you realize where you have these inconsistencies like I did. For a pantser, I would actually consider this to be a phase more of in the editing process than in the pre-draft portion of your writing. By making a storyboard outline like this, you can go through with a wide-tooth comb and see exactly where the tangles are. Also, you can use this phase to add little tidbits of foreshadowing or little hints about what's to come that you might not have seen earlier in your writing. So what were my results with the storyboard? After slaving over this outline for a week, just kidding, it was really fun. I ended up adding 32 new scenes and now have to rewrite about 13. That is a lot. And that may seem like a lot when you think about the fact that I have 115,000 words already. But I know that some of this is going to be pared down because this storyboard actually helped me realize that there's also some scenes that I don't need. They might pertain to the story, but they don't necessarily need to be in this novel. It's information that can actually be used in the next book. And when I originally started writing this story, I thought that 90,000 words was going to be a good goal. I crushed that. And then there's still a lot to write. I personally never realized I could write that much, and a part of me worries that it's gonna be too much, but that's actually what the beta readers are gonna be for, and they're gonna let me know this is too long. Or not, we'll see, I guess. By the way, I can't wait to start the beta reading process because I love being a beta reader and I can't wait for some beta readers to tear my book up. So my goal is to have my first draft completed by the end of December. So subtracting the 6 days I know I'm going to be visiting relatives, that leaves me a little over a week to write all of these scenes. So I'm really going to have to buckle down and focus. So the most important thing that I learned in making this storyboard was that I love my story. I already liked it before, but every writer gets those moments where you just feel like you are the crappiest writer in the world. You don't know what you're doing, your writing sucks, you have no motivation. The list literally goes on. And every writer feels this at one point or another. But this storyboard actually made me feel really good about my writing. I'm actually so close to being finished with my first draft, and I can't believe that I'm this close. Like so many other people out there, I've wanted to be a writer my entire life, and I'm getting closer and closer to it. So it's really exciting. It also helps that I've had an overwhelming response from my friends and my readers who are interested in my story, and it just makes my day every time. For those of you who might be interested, I'm actually going to be open for beta readers early next year. And when I get closer to it, I'm actually going to make another announcement for it. So that's all I have for you guys today. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I post new videos every Wednesday. So if you have any questions or if you have any suggestions for my next video, be sure to tweet me at Vivien Reis. Bye guys.